But I just wanted to welcome you all here. We're just going to get started with introductions. So my name is Rikka Milan. I have been a part of the Miami ballroom scene for like 4 years. I joined the House of Milan just about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. I mainly walk GNC Face as well as Best Dressed. I'm known for being of the year in Florida, Southeast region, New York. I feel like there's a couple other places in there, but known for Face and outstanding DNC of the year, 2 years in a row. And I am one of the founding members of the GNC Advocacy Committee, along with my two associates here. So I'm going to pass it off to Siren and Stella. Siren, you want to go?
So, hi everyone, I am Siren West. Pronouns are he, him. I am a trans man who also happens to be GNC. Little tidbit about me is that I walk realness as well as sex siren, body, and now beginner's runway. My eventual goal is to move into GNC runway. However, I was afforded the opportunity to be a part of this amazing committee. We're basically trying to make breakthroughs in ballroom and allow spaces for others who do not identify amongst the binary categories that we have. And so it's a pleasure to have all of you here, and it's a pleasure to do the work. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella Delcore. I have been in ballroom for about 2 years now. I originally started with Escada and then transitioned to Delcore. I joined ballroom for this reason because I wanted to make a difference, being an actual gender nonconforming person outside of ballroom as well. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to change the narrative. I am a freelance wardrobe stylist and I am based in Dallas, but I'm originally from Miami. I travel everywhere and I am here to do as much as I can to push the narrative to change the way ballroom look at gender nonconforming individuals.
Yes, seconded. Thanks. So I'm just going to go over kind of the outline of what the next couple hours are going to look like. We do want this to be a discussion, but first we wanted to provide just some context and education and background before we get into that discussion. So we'll be starting off with a brief history of gender nonconforming, but all in particular, like the way that might have looked in ballroom historically, maybe not GNC as the label, but as other labels. We're going to go over just kind of a 101 on what gender nonconforming is, including some like visual examples, because that's how we feel like we all recognize GNC and can understand it better is with those like very clear visuals. We're going to go over the category itself, what that should look like, differences between the category and other categories, with different qualifications for walking it, and calls to action for all of us as a group and anybody watching. And then we'll open up into that kind of question and answer and just like discussion, just open forum discussion. So we're going to get started with a brief history, and I'm going to pass it off now to Siren.
So the intent was to actually have individuals who have part taken in the GNC identity or expression rather. However, due to there being an aftermath tonight, it was kind of hard to pull people in. So I will do the best that I can. But some names that you might be familiar with, Gunnar Tishi, Miss Lawrence, Thaddeus, these are individuals who in ballroom, their expression as far as their categories, their looks may have been gender nonconforming. In the picture for brief history is Barry West. This look was for All American. However, if you look at the entire fit from top to bottom, it is also what we consider as a GNC expression. So it is no stranger to ballroom. We've seen these looks, we've seen these effects, we've had categories that kind of cater to these type of fluidities within the fashion itself. These are all expressions of GNC. And so with it not being a stranger to ballroom, it is now one of those times where we can say, okay, hey, we've seen it before. Now let's make a category for it. Let's allow people to actually be in a space where categories are dedicated to this type of expression versus being in another category where you may get to do it once every so often. So a little brief history.
All right, so just a quick 101 on what gender nonconforming is in the context of ballroom. And I say in the context of ballroom because you can talk about gender nonconforming outside of ballroom as an identity, something that, you know, people express, but also identify with and walk around in the world and have all different kinds of ways of understanding that for themselves as individuals. But this is gender nonconforming in the context of ballroom, how we define it, how it shows up, how it gets walked and represented. So gender nonconforming is the full kind of wording for it. GNC is the acronym label. GNC in ballroom is a gender expression that represents a non-traditional mixed gender appearance. So we know that there's a lot of binary categories in ballroom, and a lot of people have fit themselves into those categories in order to walk and feel, you know, seen and represented within those categories. But we do know that there are some folks who feel more comfortable walking a GNC category where they get to kind of present themselves in more of a mixed way. This means that it could be people who identify outside of ballroom as gender nonconforming. They could identify outside of ballroom as non-binary or gender fluid. They could identify as trans. It doesn't really matter how the person identifies outside of ballroom. They can walk a GNC category as long as their presentation, their expression of their gender when they're walking is some kind of a mix. So the label should be GNC or gender nonconforming, not an identity-centered label like non-binary or gender fluid. Those kind of identity labels we're leaving off of this and just centering GNC as the label within ballroom, and it is representing an expression, not an identity. So how should GNC categories be judged? Judges should look for a gender presentation that is a mixture of both feminine and masculine. And this is where like some people get a little tripped up because they're like, well, how much feminine or masculine? Like, does it need to be this kind of like perfect 50-50 match? No, it doesn't. It doesn't need to be like, okay, they're walking down the runway in like a split dress on one side and like a suit on the other side. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can be 50-50, it could be 70-30, it could be 90-10. So you really have to look for it. You have to look for that mixture being represented. If the person is presenting their gender in a way that's like 100% feminine or 100% masculine, then it's probably a chop. Some conversations that I've had about the category, or heard some judges like talking about it, have said, well, you know, when I see GNC walking down the runway, I should look at the person and feel like completely confused and have no idea if that person was assigned as male or assigned as female at birth. That's not GNC. It shouldn't be confusion. You won't necessarily not know what the person's gender assignment was or what their body modifications are, or if they're taking hormones or not, or any of those things. You shouldn't know anything about that. All you need to look for is what does their effect look like? Does it have a mixture of masculine and feminine? That is it. That qualifies as GNC. So here's some examples of celebrities representing like a GNC kind of style look. Obviously in ballroom, we draw a lot from celebrities and kind of the fashion industry. So we wanted to give you some examples starting there. So Janelle Monáe has a lot of looks that are very, very much GNC kind of style. Janelle Monáe also happens to be non-binary, but again, doesn't necessarily need to be the identity, just the look. Tiana Taylor as well, Alton Mason. These are, you know, also looks that can, you know, if you look at it very carefully, you can see that there is a kind of distinction of, okay, there's some feminine qualities there as well as masculine. And Harry Styles is another example. Also, a couple of others to show you, Jaden Smith, Billie Eilish, Lil Nas X. Now, do they always dress, you know, non-binary or gender non-conforming? Not necessarily. Do they always identify as non-binary? I mean, no, not necessarily. But again, it's the style of dress. It's the expression or presentation of gender non-conforming that we're looking at. Different fashion collections. Here are some examples here. Actually, I wanted to invite maybe Stella or Siren or someone who wants to comment on any of these, add anything to it.
I think you should get Stella.
Yes, so we wanted to point out a lot of the fashion houses that actually design and make collections that are gender nonconforming. In particular, Schiaparelli does a lot of creative work, and we know that, you know, a woman in a quote unquote power suit is very masculine. But if you look at it, he added another silhouette to give it a softer feel around the collar and the lapels. Robert Wan created this gown for this guy in one of his collections. And we all know that, you know, a tailor or a nice gown with a structured half side of a trench coat. The trench coat gives a more masculine, while wearing a gown, a corseted gown, which is more feminine. Mason Margiela did something that was remarkable, and that was this current collection. He put a corset on a man and slacks to, one, tighten the waist, but to also show off the femininity in a man with slacks. Louis Vuitton, this was the spring summer for 2024. That look that you see there, the top is very masculine, and it has a straight pant or a skinny pant, which is more so feminine. And then there's a woman wearing that look. So we also pointed it out. Tom Brown is also infamous for creating gender nonconforming looks. Every look, for the most part, that he creates is gender nonconforming, where he's putting men in skirts and women and suits with trench coats and briefcases and things of that nature. And they all, to some degree, have an expression of gender nonconforming, whether it's a 50-50, a 40-60, a 70-30, or 90-10. They all exemplify gender nonconforming. And we do, just as much as the fashion industry influence us, we influence them. So that was, for me, that was the big thing, freelance wardrobe stylist, to make sure that we can pull from areas that we are prone to knowing more, to explain the basis of gender nonconforming and mainstream ballroom.
Thanks, Stella. You're always so much better at the fashion stuff than me. Here's some examples in ballroom. As Stella was saying, we often are the influencers of the fashion world. So here is some great examples. Miss Lawrence, Benartishi, All American from West. All of these looks could be considered gender nonconforming because of their structure, but then also adding some feminine and kind of softer, flowing kind of touches to it. Here's some other ballroom examples. That look on the left from myself was a reflection of Janelle Monáe's look, and I just altered it slightly to give a little bit more of like a mask pant leg and shoe. But otherwise, that was pretty much just verbatim a Janelle Monáe look. Stella, you want to talk about your look there?
Yes, so my look was, this look actually was custom made for me. It's a crop jacket to give a masculine look, and it was played off of what Billy Porter did for the Oscars. I had the pleasure of meeting Christian Siriano, and this was my way of paying homage to him, as well as Billy Porter. But the top half of the gown, which is a crop jacket in velvet, plays a more masculine look because I wore a beret and all of that. And then the bottom half, which is more very feminine, which is a mermaid tails gown, to show that femininity within the entire look. So yeah.
Siren?
So for my look was actually a piece from a collection for the Ice Andro fashion show here in Atlanta. It is a fashion show for individuals who consider themselves androgynous or gender nonconforming. The piece that I had was basically made for masculine-centered identified women. However, I was the only trans man in the show, so therefore, this piece was basically supposed to highlight a level of femininity. Now, the reason why we chose this picture is because there is this notion, again, of the idea that in order for it to be a GNC, it has to be a 50-50 split, right? So you have your 60-40s, your 70-30s, and you have your 90-10s. This look right here would be what is considered a 90-10. From most part of it, it is a masculine-centered look. However, there is the part where it looks like a kilt type of skirt. That would be that 10%. What makes it so hard to make it completely GNC is that I am a masculine individual with a masculine focused piece. So it kind of eliminates the 10%. So one of the reasons why we wanted to emphasize this is if you have someone who is either female bodied or male bodied, any type of masculine or feminine touch they have in their effect may very well take over the entire look. So that creates that 90-10. And as a judge or a contestant, you have to be mindful of that. So while it is okay to have a 90-10, be mindful of the body that you presented on, because it may just make it 100% masculine or 100% feminine. So,
yeah,
absolutely. And then we have just a couple of other examples there. We didn't want to be stuck up and only have pictures of us, So we put in some other examples for y'all.
Well, we can say that Mayora was one of the first individuals to walk GNC face with you.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
And Mayora is also someone who, was a part of this journey initially with us. And she also has an aesthetic that gives, whether it's 40-60 or 50-50 or whatever, a more feminine and masculine persona to the notion of maybe like Prince and someone like that, or Little Richie, to those people for GNC individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Dominic's look here. It was great. We walked against each other at the Gianni Ball in Miami last January. It was a great look. All right, moving on, Stella.
Okay, so the current categories that we have for GNC is GNC Face, Best Dress, Runway, and Sex Siren. While these are the only categories we're currently focusing on, these may not be the only categories that we, continue to push. There may be new categories that come along that we see fit to advocate for, because we know that we want to give gender nonconforming people the space to operate. And not be left out or not have to settle for a binary category because they haven't had the option. So when we first started this, one of the biggest things that we faced was people saying that they want to add it, they just don't know how to write the category. So we push for them to make an effort for the category. So an effort should always be made to write the categories logically so that the people walking them can present a mixture of both feminine and masculine. So as you can see, we have a good example and a not so good example of a category that has been written. And we emphasize the way the categories are written because we want to make sure that it's always going to be completely GNC. And we want to make sure that when it is written, that everyone that decides to walk that category has the freedom to express gender nonconforming with the standards that we have put forth. So the poorly written example, which is open to all space, bring it as a Disney princess. As a Disney princess, you can't necessarily exemplify the masculine without having any kickback from it. So that wouldn't be a category that was written to allow someone to express both male or feminine and masculine energies or expressions. The differences, gender nonconforming is different from ups and drags, because ups and drags is an art form that requires specific featured elements that are meant to give an illusion of a binary gender, i.e. a drag queen gives an illusion of a binary woman. We wanted to make sure that we draw the fine line between the two, because we didn't want to confuse people, and we didn't want to give people the leeway to say, well, if GNC is this, then y'all might as well just walk up in drags, because that's not what GNC is. Gender nonconforming, or GNC, is a gender expression that represents a non-traditional mixed gender appearance as the standard on which to be judged. And one of the very important things we have to understand is that if there's a judge on the panel that does not understand what GNC is, to one, ask, or to allow someone else to replace them, to judge that does understand what GNC is, because you have to be able to notice or be able to identify the masculine and feminine in one presentation. How does non-binary and gender fluid differ from GNC? So non-binary and gender fluid are identity labels that have to do with how a person thinks and feels about their personal identity. Gender non-conforming is a mixed gender appearance through clothing, hairstyles. I would say clothing, hairstyles, makeup, and some are non-gender non-conforming fluid people may appear as woman or may appear as man or as mixed. Meanwhile, gender non-conforming always appears as mixed. So again, I want to clarify that non-binary or gender fluid people may appear as woman or as man or as mixed. But gender non-conforming, on the other hand, is an expression and the appearance of both mixed.
Right. It's difference between identity and expression at the end of the day.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
that's why anybody can walk GNC. It doesn't matter how you identify. It's just about what do you bring when you actually walk the category.
Right.
Hi, Siren.
So, the best question, right? Because we all, in Ballroom, we all walk multiple categories. A lot of us are grand prizes in multiple categories. So, with that being said, is it okay to walk multiple labels for the same category? Excuse me, give me 1 second. Because Gunner has just texted me, so Gunner may make an appearance. So let me let him know that we are live. Sorry, you guys. I do want Gunner to come speak to y'all about.
No worries. And in this little moment, I will
Yeah.
just say, Rayante LaBeija is also a part of our advocacy committee and contributed to this presentation tonight, but just couldn't be here for it. He is one of those folks who has walked multiple labels for the same category for face. So he's walked butch queen, drags, and gender nonconforming face. So Siren's going to go into a little bit about what's the deal for doing this.
All right. So is it okay to walk multiple labels for the same category? Yes. However, there should be a clear distinction in your presentation for each. Specifically for GNC, there needs to be a clear mixture of masculine and femme in your effect presented. So perfect example. Like we said, we have Riante. Riante walks drag face, butch queen face, and GNC face. Each category requires a different qualification, right? So drag space is the illusion of a woman. That qualifies a lot of times when you judge drag space, you're looking at the art of painting, right? You see the illusion of a woman, but it's the art of paint. With butch queen face, the qualification is to be a butch queen. You can be a male, but you must be a butch queen in ballroom, right? With GNC, the qualification is your expression, your effect must be a mixture of both mask and femme. So each category that you walk, if you're walking under the qualifications of that category, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But they have to be different. You can't walk drag's face and then come over to butch queen and appear as a drag. You would get chopped. You can't walk butch queen face and then come and walk GNC and your presentation is 100% masculine. That would result in a chop. So the qualifications alone is where the difference is. If you are able to follow those guidelines, I personally do not see anything wrong with you walking those categories. However, ballroom is a space where there are a lot of the times when you put yourself in one category, it limits you from being able to walk other categories. Prime example, you have twisters and you have butch queen vogue femme. A lot of the twisters may give butch queen vogue femme elements, but butch queen vogue femmes are not required to walk realness. It is a different lane. So with this category, one of the things we wanted to make sure was that we weren't limiting people from being able to walk it versus the other categories are identities. Drag, while in an expression, it is still an identity in ballroom. Butch queen, an identity in ballroom. Femme queen, an identity in ballroom. GNC is the expression. So that allows anyone whether male identified or female identified, as long as your expression is able to give mask and femme, no matter the 60-40, 50-50, 90-10, however, as long as that expression gives both, that is the category that you can walk. And we wanted to do that for everyone. Because as time has showed, like you said, you have Thaddeus Allure, you have Miss Lawrence, you have Gunnar Tishi, you have had people in Ballroom that have given you GNC expressions. So that means there's room for other people, including the individuals who do identify as non-binary. So we wanted that space to be open for everyone regardless. So another great question is, what if a GNC walker takes hormones or is transitioning? It does not matter how someone identifies or modifies their body in everyday life. As long as they walk GNC with a mixed appearance, they qualify. So again, it is one of those things where GNC is an expression. A lot of the times we get caught up on gender non-conforming, which then makes us feel like it is an identity, but it is an expression. So because it is an expression, that means me as myself, as a trans man who identifies on the binary as a man, my expression still is GNC. In and out of Ballroom, but in Ballroom specifically, that expression will always be mask and femme to walk that category. Now, in terms of cash prizes, right? Who doesn't love a Ballroom category with a cash prize? We all do. A lot of the times we walk for trophies, but we hype it up when it's for money. That's what we want, right? So who can walk for GNC if it's a cash prize? Anyone. However, there's a requirement. In order to make sure that we maintain the integrity for GNC, we have decided that it would just make more sense for you to at least have walked the category once in the previous year. And this is because we want to make sure that people who are truly invested in this category, who put their money and their time into this category, are given the same equal right to battle for cash. Because a lot of times we've seen categories where, you may see someone who never walks the category. And then all of a sudden it's for $1,000 and they pop out and it's like, hey, I'm here, and they win, right? It's not fair to other people that have been walking, investing, and perfecting their craft. And we feel the same way about the GNC category. It's not to say that you have to walk it 5,000 times a year. It's just to say, at least let us know that you're not just walking it because it's for cash. Let us know that you at least have seen the category, you've attempted to walk the category, you've battled against the other people that may be in that category. Doesn't have to be consistently, but at least once. That way it gives a fair chance. Hold on, let me see, because I do see a question.
Is this like unprecedented? Like, is there requirements like this for other categories, Siren?
I know that with other categories, there really isn't. And also, but the thing is, with the other categories, you have more walkers, right? So, and I see Gunnar's question. I'm gonna address that because it is part of this. Well, other categories, it's not really an issue. Mainly, it is an issue for people who win, right? If you're someone who walks that category and you put your money in and you see a girl that or a man that and never walked the category, they come out and they snatch grand prize, people do tend to get in their feelings for it. However, it is slightly different because those are categories that have an abundance of people walking it, right? When we talk about streetwear, we're not talking about one or two people that pop out and the categories rarely had a ball. We're talking about a category that is a staple in Ballroom, a category that has people that walk. So there's an abundance of people. With GNC just starting out, if you have 4 or 5 people who are consistently walking, and then one day we say, well, GNC face or GNC best dress for 1,000, and you have a girl from the best dress category who never mixes the look and then says, hey, I've been doing this for 6 years in my traditional best dress category, and here I am in your category because I know you girls can't compete. That it kind of creates that unfair lane. We want everybody to have an equal chance. We also want them to have competition. I think GNC Best Dress would love to have best dress icons who are in their own lane come over and battle them and give them something to work up to. It makes it more fun, but it also makes the category more hype than where we are right now. We want to build it up to be a regular category. So Gunnar, your question was, what if someone as myself wants to walk, who walked GNC before there was a lane? Again, there's nothing wrong with you walking. The thing about it is GNC best dress, face. The point of it is to have the best dress, the face, the runway part of the category. The talent has to be there. All we're asking for when it comes to GNC is the effect. The effect has to be mask presenting. The effect has to be mask and femme presenting, excuse me. We want both. Doesn't matter the percentage, but we want both. If you're capable of doing that, that's the only requirement to walk the category. Don't care if you walked Butch Queen face, Butch Queen best dress. Don't care about any of that. Oh, he wants to be unmuted to ask, so he can explain.
We're just about getting there, and then we can like really get deep into it.
Okay, so we'll hold that one to the end.
Yeah,
but
just hold on to that. We love you.
Hold on to it, Gunner. But yeah, so like that's the main point, is just to, in terms of cash prizes, we want everybody to have an equal opportunity. We know that ballroom is a competition space. But for a category that's new for GNC Face, Best Dress, Runway, it is a new category. People are still learning the ins and outs. People are still learning how to judge the category. So in order to make it fair, the requirement is at least to have walked once within the previous year. Just to say that, you know, hey, you didn't just come here for the money. You came here because this is a category that you also see potential in and you wanted to be a part of that. So.
Oh, yeah. All right, we got some calls to action for y'all. Siren, you want to kick us off at the top one?
All right. The first call to action, we want to educate regional alliances. It's good enough for us to have these videos, to have the post, to have the group, to have the conversations, but those are just actions, right? And that the work that we're doing, we can't do it alone. In order for it to be effective, everyone has to be able to join in and spread the message, right? I can only put out guidelines. We can only put out guidelines. We can only write so many posts and so many cute little flyers that tell you what GNC is, but y'all have to pass that information out and you have to push it out to the community. That's how we really do the work together versus just us. It's not that we want to take the credit for everything and say, oh, we did it. No, we need help. We want it to be Ballroom created this space, not just us. We introduced it, but Ballroom is going to carry it on when we're, you know, when we're done with Ballroom, when we take our time to retire, when we're legends and icons sitting back watching the new community come in. Ballroom is going to keep that going. So we need that education across the alliances on the West Coast, Southeast, the Midwest, you know, wherever there's an alliance, we need everyone that's a part, icons, legends, statements, stars. We need that education across the board. So, okay.
So for me, communicating with the parents and the parents communicating with the children. Prior to ever coming into Ballroom, I was approached originally by the House of Escada. And I told them that the only way for me to actually join the house is if there was a category that was created where I can walk, because I'm not 100% masculine and I'm not 100% feminine. I exemplify both in my everyday life, and I don't want to have to conform to something that I'm not, because I always want to stay true to myself. So I say that to say this. Parents, you know, identify with your children if they are gender nonconforming, or if they prefer to be gender nonconforming, because we know sometimes people join houses and then they feel like they have to settle with a binary category when they don't. And I say to the children, if you are gender nonconforming, if you want to walk a gender nonconforming category, speak to your parents, because sometimes the parents have so many children that they have to look after. And if you voice your opinion, or if you reach out to them and say, hey, I prefer to do gender nonconforming and not do a binary category, then that gives them the opportunity to, one, do the research on what needs to be done, and then help you as much as possible so that you can be successful and walk in the categories. We don't want to leave it all to the parents, because, again, the parents have a lot on their plate. So we do challenge you as a of a house to make sure that you're letting your leaders know. And if your leaders are, need education on what gender nonconforming is, we ask that you give them that information, and that you guys are able to sort through that information so that it can be, presented to the rest of the house, and it initially or eventually have other members come forward to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that further, the kind of mutual, like, parents, speaking to your children who you think may be GNC or may be interested in that. And then also, children speaking up. I can speak for my own story, my own experience. When I first was brought into the House of Milan, I walked new face, and I kind of learned how to walk face watching Butch Queens as someone assigned female at birth. And when I was competing against, females in the category, I was like, that's not my style. I'm never going to feel comfortable walking as a female figure face. So I talked to my father. I was like, how do I do this? Like in a year, I'm going to have to not walk new face anymore and choose a lane. And he was like, you're going to have to walk female figure. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do because that's not going to feel right to me. Because I spoke up, that's where I think conversations started happening in my House leadership. And they then invited me to speak on gender nonconforming at a House Lives Matter meeting in Orlando in February. I think that was 2020. Wow, two. and yeah, and like that just got it started. So it was this kind of mutual, like me speaking up for myself about my comfort level, and also my parents like hearing that, responding, and then inviting me to like create this category. Now the category is here. So now it's just about the parents really identifying like, hey, I might have a child who could fit really well into this category and feel like they can really be themselves in it. Let me talk to them and make that space for them. My house made that space for me, and it really made the difference. And it's what's kept me feeling, so connected, not just to my house, but to Ballroom, and to feel motivated to like stay in it. So it's a good thing. The communication going both ways is a good thing. And then the last thing here is to reach out to us as the GNC Advocacy Committee for further discussion, and especially if you are hosting a ball, if you're judging balls, talk to us. If you are still confused, you want more information, you want more clarification, we are here for you as consultants. So we put our contact information up here for you to reach out to any one of us that you feel the most connected with, or, want to ask more about like how we walk it, how we put together our looks. We're here for you. So that's our other call to action. Especially if you are putting balls together and you're going to ones like writing the categories, like we want to see this category more. So if you feel like, oh, I'm not going to put it up there because I don't know what I'm doing with it, I don't know how to write it, I don't know, whatever, like we are here. So just reach out to us. All right, so we're going to move into the open discussion portion of this now. Just a couple of reminders, and Gunnar, we're going to get to your question like right away. But just we're going to kind of do this the raising hand style in Zoom, or like you can just come on the mic, but really just like one person at a time. So like one person, one mic.
Okay.
Try to be mindful if you're taking up a lot of space. If you're on the mic a lot and, asking a lot of questions, like try to take a step back, because it'll encourage other people who may, want to speak as well. Really, like, this is the time. We've got over an hour together if y'all want it. Ask all the questions in your mind. Doesn't matter language here, like all education levels on gender nonconforming are welcome. We're not here to judge you. So like, just ask whatever you need to ask now, and we're happy to answer. And then of course, if you want to ask things in more of like an anonymous way, you can actually use the Q&A feature in Zoom here. So there's a little Q&A button, should be at like the bottom of the screen, and like the little window there, or if you're on your phone, there should be a little Q&A button, but you can actually submit questions there. And I think you can select a little tick box to submit them anonymously, just in case you're like feeling a little way about saying or asking something in like this kind of public forum that's being recorded. And then finally, just be courteous, no personal attacks. And if any of these rules are broken, like we will give you a warning, but otherwise it's a shot. So yeah, so moving on into—
Hi, hello,
discussion.
Rikka.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, it's me, Siren Milan.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, honey, I'm good, and you?
I'm doing good.
This is a very interesting topic, because I was actually totally, completely unaware of this. So my question is this going to be like something like a new category that's going to be introduced, or like, for instance, like I'm an old school queen, so I'm iconic for bizarre and for a category that's no longer around called fag out, and how would I know about this gender nonconformity category, or what to look for and what it is about?
Yeah, so that's what this presentation is all about. So this is being recorded, which is great because then anybody can go watch it later. So
I
think
hope
you
you
might
don't
have
mind.
missed.
I'm smoking.
That's
I smoke.
okay. I think you might have missed the very beginning of this. So I'm gonna
What?
actually just pull up the slide that we have that gives a few definitions and things. Just pull it up again so you can see it. But this is a category that's been already introduced to ballroom, to a lot of the balls. It's probably been in like, I would say it's come up like an average of like 10 times a year at 10 different balls in the last 2 years. So like a total of probably 20 to 25 times. It's also been like in European ballroom in different iterations, historically, like even before the last couple of years. So it's been around. It's not as well known, obviously, but it is a category that that is out there already, and that people are walking, and that I've won of the year for a couple of times in different regions. So it's happening, and this is the kind of info on how to judge it, what it is, and this recording is going to be posted as well. So we're gonna take the next question, and if you have something
Wait.
else.
May I just interject here? So if you were walking this category,
Mhm.
you would compete against female figures or males, and
If it was open to all, yes. If it was open to
okay.
all, yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
we're gonna do like one question at a time kind of deal.
Sorry.
So Aaron, if you want to ask another one, you can raise your hand again. Niall.
1 second before we move to Niall's question, let's go ahead and take care of Gunner
Yeah.
and
Oh,
answer
that's right. Thank you.
if it was originally first.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gunnar, you wanted to jump on mic and talk about your question from earlier. Are you there?
You still here? Is he?
Okay, maybe we'll go back to Gunnar. Niall, you
Oh,
want to
he's
jump
not. He
in?
said he's not. He said he's not unable to unmute.
Oh,
Do you
let me
unmute
see.
it?
Ask to unmute. Maybe that'll help.
That might work.
Uh, Maybe go out and come back in, Gunnar.
Yeah, you might have to go out and come back in.
Go out, come back in. In the meantime, we'll talk to Niall.
How many people are in here?
We've got like 8 people in here right now.
Hey, I'm Stella Delcore from the Toronto chapter. My pronouns are they, he. I do walk female figure, best dressed in body, and tried to come out for GNC, but that's another story. It's okay. We actually, you brought up Fag Out. It has been coming back, and that was part of my question. I think it came back in like Paris a couple of years ago with a Gucci and a couple Gucci's, and then Vancouver just had it at a Vogue night last night. So it's like slowly coming back, and my question is, where is the focus to create a GNC category for categories that already exists, or do we want to be creating and bringing back categories that really influence and encourage and celebrate the fact that non-binary and gender fluidity and gender non-conforming comes in like various, presentations, things like fag out, things like fish stick and such like that, like categories that allow butch queens to wear lingerie and female figures to, wear flats without necessarily being a GNC category of a current gender
Okay.
category.
So to answer your question, again, GNC is a expression. Whether a person is non-binary or gender fluid, that's an identity that they choose to be. Gender non-conforming categories have been targeted as gender nonconforming because we didn't want to limit non-binary people or gender fluid people to something. We wanted to give this range or expression to everyone that was, because there are heterosexual people that are gender nonconforming. So we did gender nonconforming to give everyone that opportunity to be able to express themselves in any form that they wanted to, as long as it was a mixture of masculine and feminine. I don't know if that answers your question.
I'm just wondering, I guess, is the focus then to make sure current categories stay alive with the GNC space as opposed to, or should we also be creating new spaces and bringing back old spaces for GNC?
So yes, it is to make sure that gender nonconforming is for those the current categories, and we will potentially be trying to add new categories that haven't been done for gender nonconforming or haven't been done for non-binary or fluid people through GNC.
Okay, work.
And as far as the older categories, the names have changed.
Mm-hmm.
The wordings have changed. The way they're I guess labeled has been changed. So we want to stay with the current times to give people the opportunity to stay with the times, and so that we don't limit how something was judged 25 years ago or 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, may I say something if I may? Being iconic in my category of bizarre and fag out, I don't mind the title where it's called the category fag out, where I think that a lot of people nowadays don't like the word fag. But in my experience, I'm known for the category and I act like that and I do fag out, and it doesn't bother me. And I'm not trying to say that it's necessarily right, but I'll walk the category anytime and come fag out hard or soft. It just,
well,
that's
we also have to understand that politically, that word is no longer acceptable, and a lot of people that are throwing these balls are getting fundings from national organizations, and in order to continue to be able to host those balls, we want to be sure that none of those organizations are offended by a category.
Okay.
So that's why
Donner,
we continue to use that label.
Donner, are you
Understood.
able to come on mic?
Yes, can you guys hear me? I think we have it figured out now.
Hey,
Yeah.
Gun.
Hey everybody, how are y'all? First, I know I'm gonna monologue for like 3 seconds. Thank you guys, gals, theys and thems, zays, all of the things for having me on. And thank you, Siren, specifically for requesting me. Hey Byron, I miss you. You big
Hi,
slut.
honey.
I miss
Yes.
you. So
I'm
when I was
still
asking
fag out.
okay, I want to fag out too. So when I was asking the question, I think Siren had just mentioned, like, for the bigger cash categories, right? You kind of want to have a precedent that you at least walked the category or showed interest in the category. So my question was for, let's say, someone like myself or a Thaddeus or a Lawrence, who's kind of technically walked these before we had an avenue for them, right? So let's say there's a big 1,000 thing, and I'm like, you know what? I want to lend my voice and name to this, but I also want to try to win some money too, bitch. So with someone like myself, who's already presented in those ways, even though I've always walked best dressed under the Butch Queen moniker, I guess, would I be qualified to walk that category, or because I've never walked GNC best dressed specifically as that title, not be allowed to walk that space?
Well, in your case, I believe that you would be allowed to walk. Miss Lawrence did walk and won a cash prize, and that was Miss Lawrence's first time in walking. And the reason why we were okay with it, because you guys are the ones that were the trailblazers for us. So if you came in and walked the category, that one lets us know that you are approving of us to continue to move forward with this. And two, this now shows Ballroom that we do have people that have always done this that are willing to support in this category.
Okay.
But if
then
not, if they're not of your status, then yeah, you gotta walk.
yeah. No, my last little thing, because that has been, because Stella, we've been talking since you first came around, and Rikka, we've been talking and stuff. I've talked to several of you guys and gals about like different categories and what does it mean. And I was a little confused in the beginning, and having a panel with y'all, I realized, oh, bitch, I'm GNC, and didn't even realize that was a thing. I'm an old
That
butch
was
queen
a
from back in the
moment
day,
on
bro.
Beagle. That was
Yeah,
a
like
moment.
back in the day, it was like, bitch, I'm just a butch queen who put on skirts and stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. You're trying to call me something, you know. So I've wanted to lend my name or be able to try to assist and lend my credibility to the category, but I didn't want to come in and feel like because of who I am now, it's like I get to come in and just win an easy category. I want it to be like, no, I see what they're doing, mixing button-down blazers with skirt bottoms and heels, but a top hat, and doing those kind of things in a way that still respects the fashion elements of what the fashion criteria calls for. Um, so that's I can say for me personally, that's why I've been a little reluctant to just jump out there, because I didn't want to skew it, right? Because I know in people's head they see me as a butch queen walking best dress, and I don't want them to start thinking, oh, well, Gunna walks butch queen best dress, so this is a category for butch queens. It's no, I mean it is, but it literally is about the art of blending the genders in a way that still respects the categories. And like you said, there are those of us who are on the more feminine presentation of that have done that well, like the Thaddeus's and the Mrs. Lawrence's, and then there are those who are more on the masculine presenting side who have still blended male and female, which would be people like myself, right? I still present more masculine, but I still have done skirts and heels and all that. But a Miss Lawrence and Thaddeus are given clean shave, eyelashes, all of that, but they still have a masculine butch queen presentation. So no, I'm gonna try to find a category one day to jump out there specifically for it. Because I feel, and I'll land my plane. I feel that when I'm watching it being judged, and this is not a dig at anyone who's been walking the category. I appreciate people like Stella who've been walking best dress, GNC to try to really push it forward. I think there's a disconnect with the mainstream judges and what some of you guys and gals are putting out there and what they're expecting from what we've put out there. And so there's like a gap that needs to be bridged, so it doesn't feel sometimes, and please don't take this as like a dig or anything, but it feels sometimes a little more cosplay. Like it's almost like sometimes even y'all get into your head about trying to make sure the masculine and the feminine thing is there. So it starts to feel a little less authentic, just like, oh, this is just a person just gender bending or mixing it up. They're trying to check off the check boxes. So I think that's something else that we can kind of work on. I know you guys said it's not like a 50-50 thing, but a way that people don't feel like, okay, well, I got a beard, but I need a lash too, because if I don't have a lash with my, it gets to be so like, how many check boxes do I need to check off? And then as a judge, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this looks like a parody of a thing that is a real thing.
Or it just
Right.
looks messy.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think we have to find a way to have it correlate with the mainstream judges, that it doesn't come across as a parody, right? That no, this is a real a non-gender conforming expression that people do regularly. Y'all know me, Miss Lawrence, you've seen it before. This isn't a parody of what they're not trying to do something that hasn't been done. So I think
Right.
I appreciate you guys, and I'll end my plane there.
Well, I know for me, and Rikka and Siren, we have been having that discussion on being able to show Ballroom the different ways or the different styles that a gender nonconforming person can be. I stopped wearing makeup and hair, and lashes and all of that because I don't wear it all the time outside of Ballroom. But I still would wear a gown or, my heels and things like that. So what
Now,
we're
baby,
doing.
I love an old gown. Give me an old gown with a beard and a top hat, and I'm at the back of the runway for $1,000. Let's go, Brandon. You already know what I
Exactly.
give, bitch. Let's go.
Right. But so creating those looks, and then because people don't expect me, I wear suits as well. I love suits, but adding a nice long train to a suit um is also some like ways that, and we added slide like images to this particular discussion so that when someone comes back and have that, that little bit of thought of, well, how do I know if that's really, because it don't look like Gunna, it don't look necessarily like Miss Lawrence or Thaddeus. So how do I know it's really GNC? So we did add some images from fashion houses and also from celebrities that that do it all the time, because we rely on the industry and the industry relies on us.
Exactly. I want to actually. Go ahead.
Can I chime in for 1 second? Hi, y'all. I'm Brandon Milan, East Coast of Milan. I've been in Milan for 28 years. I'm a double Hall of Famer in my country category. And I just would like to say, the gender non-conforming categories is so new to me, but I'm very glad I had to jump off the call, but I'm back on the Zoom to kind of further educate myself on this. The reason being is, like I always say, I typed it in the chat. In my eyesight, Thaddeus was actually the first before Lawrence. I've been out for 28 years. Thaddeus Allure was the first. He broke down barriers on the ballroom floor at the Mark Ballroom in New York, and also Chicago and Atlanta. He was wearing furs, two pieces, stockings, fishnet, heels, boots, all of that before it was a GNC category. So I think that's important for us to call him out, because I didn't know what that was. We thought he was just gender bending on the ballroom floor. Also, from a ballroom perspective,
like Strike a Pose Ebony too.
Oh, and strike a pose, Ebony. Absolutely, Baron. Thank you. And hey,
hi, honey.
I also want to say the fact that gender nonconforming itself, GNC, whether it's faith or whatever, and Gunner been on the scene. Gunner knows me. Barry knows me. I'm just kind of getting formally introduced to y'all. Hey, but Rikka is my house member. In order for us to bring GNC to a place, y'all gotta make it, and all those who walk GNC categories, they have to do the work to make it extremely high. Reason being is that make sure that some type of GNC category is on every flyer for whoever's throwing the ball. You gotta press that issue, because if you don't, for prime example, we from Black Era made Butch Queen Face hot in Atlanta. Like the lights was out for Butch Queen Face for years. As for the Atlanta ballroom scene progressed, you was coming to Atlanta to come to the balls at tracks. Was they not gonna? So you have to make this category prevalent. You have to be seen. That way, GNC come around, GNC pays $5,000. Because that's the only way GNC will be respected in the ballroom scene. I love the education. I love what it means to be GNC. I'm with it. But in order for ballroom to respect GNC, y'all got to make it hot. I'm extremely hot. For me to come and pay $60 to come to a ball to see GNC, y'all got to make it hot. And that's just my input from a ballroom floor perspective.
And do specifications of it.
So that's something we all have been working on. I remember when we did Marcus was the first person to throw a ball that had GNC face. And ever since then, all of us individually would get we would get with each other collectively, but we would also reach out to the balls that we wanted to attend that did not have GNC. And we would get with our leaders to say, hey, let's team up so we can contact voters so that we can get GNC added, whether it was just for face or for best dress. Now we started out with 2 categories. Now we have 4. And it's because we have been reaching out and pushing to try to get GNC added. The thing is when a lot of these promoters do add it, you have maybe Rikka or myself or maybe 2 other people walk the category and they want to see more people. So that was another reason why we decided to do this discussion, to let people know about what GNC is, because there could be more people walking if they only knew what GNC was. Another thing I will touch on, we are definitely working on getting funding for GNC category. Because a lot of the GNC categories that get added, if it's not open to all, it's only for a trophy. And we know that if people want to come and walk and get a trophy, but they also want to win some money back too, because they've spent their time and money to walk that category.
But wouldn't a GNC category be like an open to all?
No, we can have a closed GNC best dress, a closed GNC face, a closed GNC runway.
And there has been.
It's discretion.
Okay.
And in my opinion, I think until it gets solidified, you would probably want to have it that way. Right? Until those lines are fully understood, you probably would want to have it closed. I did have an idea about maybe a way that some of us old gals can work with some of you new gals to make this a thing. Maybe and it's just an idea that came up in my head. If you had like a where we've been and where we're going category, where like a maybe me, Miss Lawrence, and Thaddeus, we walk, not necessarily, we're not walking to win, but we're walking out there because the girls know who we are. We got them up. And then it's like, no, this is where we were. Let me show you where we're going with the category. And then boom, now all you new girls come and now y'all walk after for the category and get your chance. Right. So now they're gonna feel a little less easy to just chop you because they don't want to see it. Because girl, now you got 3 or 4 known fashion icons up there saying, no, this is our next lineage. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's a way that some of us can work with you guys. You know, I know Thaddeus and I know Lawrence personally. If y'all reach out to them or reach out to me. Because I don't want it to, I don't want us, I want to be a part of making it happen, but I don't want to be defined in this new age of what it is, right? I'm not looking to be like, you know, Gunner was the GNC girl. Like, no, Gunner just said, hey, these babies are trying to do something. What can I do to say, hey, they've already been here?
And support them.
So
Yeah.
I
like that, Ghana.
I do like that, but I also have a question, right? The thing about it is like, because even when we did the slideshow, we did mention Thaddeus is actually one of the first names we mentioned. And when we do our meetings privately, we're constantly always talking about, you know, Miss Lawrence, Thaddeus. And so we know who the people are who have been GNC before there was a GNC term, right? But more so, it's one thing for us as competitors to create the hype behind the category. But see, part of this presentation also was the education behind judging it. Because you have Rikka, you have individuals like Mayor, you have Riante. There are a lot of GNC face walkers. That is probably the category that has the most walkers as of right now. And then you have Stevie, who turns it for best dress when Stevie gets the opportunity to walk, right? But a lot of the things that make it hard for other GNC individuals to walk is the judging aspect. That is the part where there is a miscommunication. Because when we talked about Fag Out, right? Fag Out is not GNC.
No.
At all. They are two different categories, but Ballroom is in a space where the mindset is still very binary. It is about what you see in front of you, and it has an identity attached to it. When we see someone who is feminine presenting, a lot of the times we put them with the female figures. When we see someone who is masculine presenting, we put them with the male figures. That is Ballroom. It is in a state of binary. So when you introduce a category like GNC that has nothing to do with the binary gender identity, but more so the expression, that's something that Ballroom has been doing for eons. Almost every decorated legend or icon can tell you they have done a look that definitely stretches across the gender binary. We know that. We've seen it in runway. We've seen it in best dress. We've seen it in streetwear. We've seen it in high fashion, labels. It does not matter. Almost every category has touched a GNC expression. But Ballroom has a binary state of mind. And so that's one of the things that hinders this category, because when you have judges on a panel, they are looking for things that put you on the binary, not your expression, not the, we need to see the masculine and feminine energy, but it's, oh, well, you don't have lashes, so that's not feminine energy. Feminine energy, as far as the category concerned, masculine energy, as far as the category concerned, is what you are wearing. It is not your hair. It is not your makeup. It is what you are wearing, and that includes accessories. So you may have very well a tailored suit, but your accessories may give chaparelli, and it is very much feminine. That is a masculine and feminine energy. It has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with the body that is wearing the clothes. So one of the things is, if you look at Rikka's presentation, Rikka can identify as he, she, they, and them, but Rikka is a female-bodied individual. Gender non-conforming GNC face for Rikka is very much going to be a masculine and feminine energy. There must be a masculine presentation and a feminine presentation in her look. Her being female-bodied does not make it feminine energy. That is the body. We're judging the clothes. And after we're judging the clothes for your 10s, because that's the only time that your presentation should matter. We're judging your clothes for your 10s, and do you have the aesthetics of face? If you have face and your expression is masculine and feminine, that is 10s. After that, the only thing you're judging for battles is the face. But a lot of times, Ballroom judges lose sight of that because they're trying to figure out, when they look at you, can I tell if you're male? Can I tell if you're female? Do you look like you're both? There is a disconnect with how that category needs to be judged. That is a hindrance for people wanting to walk the category.
So Siren, how about since Stella had mentioned y'all are trying to get funding for your own categories, if you have a ball promoter willing to give you the space for a category, then you know how like for big cash prizes, y'all we switch out judges oftentimes. Maybe that's what needs to happen, right? So some non-bind or some GNC people who know what GNC face, y'all pick them up. For the fashion category, you have a me and a Miss Lauren. You know, you have people who understand what they're looking for, so that they see, oh, this is how the judging is. We get the real judging like every other criteria, versus just people who've never seen it before. It's the 11th hour of the ball. The girls is drained. They're high. They're over it. And now you're saying GNC face $3,000 like this, and they're like, "Girl, I don't know what I'm looking at. She got a beard and a lash. I don't get it. It's a chop, right?" Because with all the other stuff, you're also at, and I'm not giving excuses for the judges or where we are in ballroom, but understand the state of how a ball runs. You're asking people to learn something new, almost kind of on the spot, while intoxicated, while in high energy, while competing for points, while doing all of that, versus saying, no, let's bring in someone whose mindset already understands the judging process in the middle of all this volatility to show you how it's done as people y'all already respect as judges. So you're not going to be looking like, girl, why they on the panel? No, you know why Gunnar and Miss Lawrence and Rikka and, Siren are on the panel.
And
so they're judging a qualified category, so it adds more credibility. But now y'all get to frame the narrative around the judging versus letting someone who's high energy over it right now because they didn't get their last bump, and now they just like, girl, I don't know, let her through. So and again, I'm just trying to provide ways for y'all to try to fix some of the structural things around it to help give it the credibility it needs, as Brandon was saying, for it to be so ballroom can wake up like, oh, now we get it. Because ballroom still kind of needs that aha moment. And I think with individuals, like I've seen Rikka walk, I've seen certain of you guys and gals walk, and I think some people kind of get it around the individuals, but ballroom still hasn't had the category aha moment where it's like, okay, we get it, right? We say Butch Queen realness, we know what we're looking for. There's not a, well, what does it mean? Like, let's explain it. We need to have that aha moment with the GNC.
Got you. Okay. Definitely understand.
Jeffrey.
Very valid.
Jeffrey, go ahead.
Okay, am I on mute?
Yeah. No, we can hear
You guys can hear me. How are you guys doing this evening? This is very intriguing. I am just sitting back, really trying to get my head wrapped around it. Like the structure of this is so enlightening. And I'm just trying to like figure out, as the overall overseer of the Royal House of LaBeija, how to come back to the house and explain this and get people enthusiastic about what is probably to come with this category. And what I'm gathering is it's kind of like an androgynous feel to it. And I'm just like, I'm old school, you know what I mean? And I always tell people, like, when I came around ballroom, it wasn't the social media or like archival stuff in reference to when I was walking. And then there was also, I wasn't really consistent and life kept showing up. But my love for ballroom, I never walked away. And now I find myself in a position of overall overseer and also trademark owner of this prestigious house. And like, LaBeija navigates with $1 million corporations. We navigate in a world where at one time people would say, oh, the House of LaBeija is late because we wasn't in current time. So what has happened is now we are in current time. We're in current time with ballroom, and we're also in current time with, I guess, the mainstream aspect in preserving this legacy, which is like almost like a 24/7 job. Sometimes I'll be gagging how I keep up with my mainstream of income and do this too. But having a team, it kind of works out. But so to get what I'm really trying to say is, because I have to go back to the house and I can explain it to the younger people because I'm from a whole nother generation. It's really just about the aesthetic of an androgynous feel where you express yourself, and the conformant part is that your individuality, your style, your alluring taste is what's at the forefront. And I mean, of course, good looks don't hurt. So is that what I'm gathering?
We
I'll
did
go back on mute.
Androgyny was an older term that was used, but we now know that gender nonconforming is the term that gets used now, in that same light. But we want to first, I would say, present this live to them, as well as present the documents that we have, so that they can first see that. And then if they need more clarity on what that or GNC would be, then we can break it down further to a older term, or to something that would be more reciprocated to or received from them. But I necessarily wouldn't go and say, oh, this is it's more so androgyny, because you can have a female that only wears men clothing as androgynous, but for gender nonconforming, she's not expressing both. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Just because she's a female wearing all men clothing doesn't mean that she's gender nonconforming.
Yeah, it needs
Because
to
she
be a
has to have
mixed presentation.
has
Like
to
there
have
needs
a
to be
mix.
both. Yeah. And
It has
ball
to be a
standards.
mixture
and
Yeah,
I would
for ballroom
also, yeah, exactly, from ballroom standpoint.
for
And I would
ballroom
just also
standpoint.
emphasize what I said at the beginning of the presentation and explaining like the definitions of GNC, which is, I think when people talk about androgynous, like their mind often goes to like, I shouldn't be able to tell whether this is a woman or a man. And that's not what GNC is. It doesn't matter how the person identifies in real life, was assigned at birth, whether they're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter, as long as the presentation, the effect that they are wearing shows some amount of masculine and feminine mixture.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm glad.
most
I'm
people
glad you cleared that
identify
up.
androgyny with.
Sorry, one person at a
I'm
time.
sorry,
Um,
Gunnar.
No, I was gonna say I'm glad you cleared that up, Rika. I think Jeffrey, I'm not your generation, but I'm a couple generations after. But before these, right? When we think about androgyny, we think about the ability for the person to not be identified as male or female. For their categories, what they're saying is when we think about category write-ups, bringing in all red, what they're saying is you're all red. It's not about your face. Your all red needs to be blended, male and female. Right? It's not about you have to be blended male and female, whatever the category is. Bring it like a clown. The clown look needs to incorporate a female presentation of a clown along with male presentation versions of a clown. It's not about does this clown have hair or does this clown have a beard. It's about the clown suit itself. And then after that, it's but do they have face?
Thank you
If
for
that's
the
what the
clarity.
category is, if that's what the category is requesting.
You know, because he's right. I'm a couple of generations back, and let me say I'm very proud of that. It's a gift to be within today's times and just educate yourself. You know, you can never have enough information. So, like, for that, I'm just grateful just to come on this meeting and get educated, and then go back to my house and tell them what I've learned, and then inspire younger people that, you can do this, and this is what they want to see, and this is a progressive category that has the potential to celebrate you. I'm going back on mute.
Two things I want to say. One, LaBeija has been doing great. Rayante out there on the West Coast has been an amazing mother to 2 GNC children, and is doing what we were saying before as a call to action, which is like talk to your kids, have your kids talk to you. Like this needs to be like a mutual thing where everybody's having a conversation about GNC and making space for it within your house. So I love that you're motivated to go to your house now as the overseer and bring more information. I dropped in the chat a link to this presentation, the PDF of the PowerPoint presentation, and also the 2 documents that we as a advocacy committee put out in the last couple of years, outlining in detail some of like FAQ and some questions and things that have come up. So it's basically everything that we've produced so far from the committee that's like a document that you can take to your house. And then this recording will also be up on YouTube.
I love LaBeija.
I was gonna say something. I was gonna say, Rikka, if you could bring back up the looks with the celebrities.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
Jeffrey, remember Pepper Little Bitty apartment in Harlem?
Honestly speaking, I never been to that apartment.
Oh,
I only met her once, and I've only been in the House of LaBeija for 11 years.
oh, okay. I just I went to her apartment like right before she died when she had that ball at the Brooklyn Y when she came out in the wheelchair.
Oh,
And baby,
yeah.
I'm crying.
like, I walked that bar that night too.
So Jeffrey actually kind of prompted me to bring this back up. Because we talked about androgyny and so kind of like just to kind of give like further of an idea, because I know a lot of people came in late, so a lot of people may have missed this part, so I kind of wanted to go back into these looks. So when we talk about GNC and we talk about the expression, right, we'll say the first category we'll say is GNC face. We'll use Janelle Monáe. So for an individual who is walking GNC face, this would be their presentation, right? If we're talking about a look having masculine and feminine presenting energy, right? This would be their look. This person's coming out. You would be judging their look, looking at it from head to toe and saying, okay, do I see the masculine? Yes. Do I see the feminine? Yes. And that is what you're looking at in terms of the energy that's required for that category. But then you're also looking at the face. Okay, this person is walking face. So I've determined that the effect is masculine and feminine. That's the one box is checked. Now looking at their face, do they have face? I'm looking at them. Do they have structure? Do they have skin? Do they have teeth? All of those things, right? They have face. This would be where you say, this is 10s across the board. After you have judged this person, based off of that entire presentation, face and the expression, the battles moving forward, you would only be judging the face. We're not judging based off, okay, their entire look, are they more GNC than the other person? You are only judging their face. Does this person have more face than the person they are battling?
Well,
and that
the
is how
category
you
should stipulate that then.
So that's kind of like where we've kind of run into the disconnect, right? Is where we are saying these things. Everything that we've said, this is not a first and it won't be the last, but it's something that has to stick because it is not the traditional way that people are used to judging. It is very different, but the way that it is judged allows anyone to walk it. And that's why we say expression versus identity. So same thing, like if we're talking about best dress, right? Say we wanted to judge Tiana Taylor on best dress. We're looking at the overall look. Do you see elements of masculine and feminine? Do you see them? Yes. All right. Is this a best dressed look? If it's yes, it's 10s across the board. If it's a no, then it's a chop and we will thank them for walking and send them on their way. Once they've received their 10s, you're now judging this best dressed look versus the next best dressed look. Not this GNC look versus the GNC, but is this best dressed look, which one do you prefer? Which one is eating the other one? Which one is so over that it's undeniable? That is how those categories would be judged. So I like to put visual examples with the explanation so that you can kind of get a gist of what that judging looks like. I do feel like in terms of call to action, it is on us as a committee to make sure that we are reviewing balls that have categories and doing our due diligence to reach out to promoters to make sure that the judges on the panel are aware, but that is not just on us. As icons and legends who sit on these panels, icons and legends have to understand and be willing to learn how to judge this category and be willing to hold each other accountable when one is not judging according to that category. That is a larger conversation because we can say that across categories across the board, that accountability does not always happen. But that is the only way that this category can successfully be judged continuously from ball to ball. The icons and the legends and the statements who often get put on these panels must know what they're judging, and your counterparts must hold you accountable when you're not judging it right.
So which one of these hoes I gotta hold accountable? Because you know I don't mind. With old icon and which new virgin? Because you know I don't mind from top to bottom. I don't mind.
Let me see. Would this look count? Let me see.
So I was asking, like I picked out a look that I just did with Accessories Council magazine. I actually styled the whole shoot. We flew out the magazine chief and editor Karen Gibson, myself, and the Royal House of LaBeija New York chapter. We flew out to to Miami, and we also, got footage of the ball, and then we did the whole, to actually give more visibility to Ballroom on a luxury end magazine, explaining what Ballroom is. And when I styled, honestly speaking, I wasn't really going for GNC, but I was going for just a fashion forward custom looks that I felt, kind of expressed yourself, and there wasn't really no toning to gender. So I just wanted to know, was that kind of like a look?
So
I would personally say no, because because everything to me is masculine. Even the shoes, they actually make, or they are men shoes. So I don't see the mixture of both. Maybe if something was added to make it more feminine, I would say yes. But this is to me. There's other people that may differ from me, but as a person that actually works in the fashion industry and knows that, shoes like that are created for men and they're worn by men, I would say no, it's not GNC.
Okay, I receive.
We holding a panel here.
Jeffrey.
I just got chopped.
No, so like, can I just say, Jeffrey? So like, and Stella, you can back me up because you do more styling, more relevant current styling. So for this look, for me, it's not GNC. Now you take this same look, you add like a polka dot tulle skirt that sits on top with a nasty veil, like a wedding type veil or something like that. Now you've added in the feminine elements on top of the masculine elements. Now I get the gender blend.
Correct. That is 100%.
100%.
Even if you were to have a actual women's handbag or like the accessories that women would wear into that look, that would make it GNC.
Correct.
Well, if I may
teardrop
speak,
earrings.
Wait, am I on mute? If I may speak on the chops, actually, the jewelry was Betsy Johnson.
Jeffrey, let me see the look. I can't see the look.
Yeah, the outfit was actually Nicole Miller custom, which was made to fit me and tailored to me, but it was actually a woman's suit. And I did have a purse, but the photographer, Andrew Egan, that was the picture he chose. I was not in control of the pictures that they chose.
So
that's
Jeffrey,
what they wanted to handle.
I want to give you a little tidbit. I want to give you a little tidbit real quick. Give me one second.
Jeffrey,
give me 1 second. Hold on.
Wait, hold on. May
one person at a time.
Jeffrey. Okay, I'm sorry, Jeffrey. I'd like to see the look. I didn't get it.
It was in the chat.
So, Rikka, do me a favor. Go to my picture.
Yes. Let me see your picture. Is it up? Is it in the chat?
It'll be. So I am in the center. Okay, so this is why. So this is kind of like what I kind of specified earlier. So this is where like it becomes a thing, right? So when I look at the picture, right, I can tell that the suit is not a man's suit. I can tell just from the tailoring, it's definitely a woman's suit. Here is the problem, right? When you are a masculine centered individual, a lot of the times the clothes that you wear, although they may be for women, put on you will give a different illusion. This is what creates that 90-10, right? And anything that's 90-10, it leaves room for you to be chopped. So if you look at my look in the center, this outfit that I have on is designed for butches. This was from an androgynous fashion show where I was the only trans man for 4 years straight. This look on a butch or a female would have gave GNC. On me, because I am masculine centered and a huge portion of this look gives masculine energy, makes the entire look masculine. Even the little skirt that they added to give a feminine touch gets lost, and it gives very much 90-10, almost 100% masculine. When you're that close, it makes it hard to make it a 10s. And that point, it leaves to that person, well, can I not? So what we have even said to people who walk GNC, even to want each other, we have always said 90-10 is cutting it too close. You give yourself room to get chopped. It is easier for you to go for a 70-30. And it's very easy to get that extra 20%, adding a handbag, adding jewelry that even if jewelry is made by a female designer, if we look at it, because we live in a world that is very GNC, a world that's very androgynous, right? I have on drop earrings. This is what you would consider for women, but men do it so much that it's not considered feminine anymore. You have to go above and beyond. It's no different than when you have your fashion categories. They may ask you, when we're talking about materials, right? We've seen runway categories where they've asked for metallic, and we watched an entire All-American lineup get chopped. Why? Because you leave that perception is that judge in that moment. If they think that this is something that everyone can wear, it's not exclusive to women, it does not make it a woman's piece, even if it is designed by women or for women. You have to be so undeniable that they look at it and say, that is masculine and that is feminine. And that is what we're trying to make sure that every individual who walks GNC, because this category is so new, we want it to be undeniable.
Especially to play it safe right now. Yeah.
Right. Especially right now. It's new. It's
and,
new
and for yourself walking. Because
I'm glad that I struck up the conversation. Like, you know, that's what I was actually going for, because that was just for a ad for luxury accessories. You know what I mean? So thank you. Like, now I can really go back and break it down to the kids.
But really by all means, the look is definitely over. But for this purpose, it doesn't fit GNC. So if you did have a male figure that wanted to walk best dressed, and you say, hey, I got the look already, give them that look, because that look would pass for a male best dressed look.
Right.
Oh, and no, that's their clothes. That was just
or labels.
But I get it now, because I did take pictures with the purse as well. But like I said, I wasn't in control of that end of it. We all had our jobs to do. I mean, I pulled all the pieces, the bags, the whole. We all know what that's like when you go into that.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you. And now I know how to really come at them and come correctly. To me, I think it's very important to be able to understand constructive criticism so you can grow and bring out undeniable looks with your children. Because for me, it's all about a moment. Because I feel like the House of LaBeija, we've been in this resurgence since 2017. We might be at a Hall of Famer house, and we might have been around for eons, but what is happening now is a resurgence from 2017, and we are willing to earn our spot. Like, we are not the founders. We're just the LaBeijas now. And that's, to me, what I try to embed in the kids now. Don't get caught up in winning. Get caught up in making moments. And learn and take things constructively. Don't get your feelings in it, because there'll be another ball, probably in 2 hours.
Right. And I just want to say, for the sake of like history and, you know, just everything, we look at it as a new category because it's not a category that was in mainstream. But GNC has been around since, well, it's dated back to 2015. It could possibly be before that, but dated back to, as you know, as what we know as 2015. It's just most people are just now learning about it. So a lot of people look at it as new.
Well, we went over the history, and GNC has been around even before 2015. Thaddeus was definitely one of the people that pioneered GNC, but it didn't have a label at that time. So now that we have a label, we still pay homage to those people that did it before us. But now that this label has been created, we want to make sure that in this particular time, in the new times, we are representing this new form or this new label as of GNC.
Specifically in mainstream ballroom too.
Right. Now I'm saying the actual category of GNC, like under that label, that specifically has been around since 2015. I know they've always had, like, you know, fag out and non-binary and different things, but it's dated back to 2015 to when the GNC title came around. But, you know, it was more so in Kiki and different things. So a lot of people look at it as new because it's really just now really hitting mainstream, but it's been around for a little bit.
We're only referring to mainstream because this is all of this has to do only with mainstream. Kiki does a lot of things prior to mainstream, but this particular discussion is only geared towards mainstream.
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but all right, just mainstream.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have anything in the Q&A, Rikka?
No one put anything in there.
Okay.
Also?
Hi. Sorry I'm late, but I wanted to let you guys know that I'm so extremely happy about this merge with Ballroom. And I wanted to also ask, as a promoter, what are the categories that have been accepted by GNC folks that we can include in a ball? I know that realness is out of the question. So I want to just make sure, what are the categories that you guys accept so that I am politically correct? And also, how do you say gender nonconforming in Spanish? Because I am looking to host balls in Latin America, and I want to include that too.
I will give me a second or so. Maybe my Duolingo will come in handy.
Okay.
In terms of the categories, though, I will say that current categories for GNC are face, best dress, runway, and sex siren.
Face,
Now,
best dress.
And
Okay.
sex siren is a bit, I will say the sex siren is one of the categories it's not common to see GNC sex siren. It has happened, but it's not one of the leading categories. Right, as of right now, the leading categories would be face, best dressed, and runway. So sex siren is not going to be perfect. We haven't really seen it done enough to really determine exactly how or what that looks like, but it is one of the categories that we are considering. So
It could be a thing.
Siren, you really opened me up because I wanted to talk about that one, right? Because especially with that one specifically, when Ballroom's already tried to make strides for the male presenting sex sirens to almost kind of be as GNC. We think about something like a Catboy, right? That's almost kind of pushing for a GNC category for a sex siren before we had GNC. It was like, okay, we got boys, butch queens, but they want to wear lingerie. They want to be more feminine. They want to have a more feminine presentation, but we want them to be able to walk sex siren. So how do we create that space? And we created something like Catboy sex siren. So I would like to see how that develops as like a juxtaposition. How does GNC now come into this space, and does it kind of become the replacement for what Catboy is, or and not necessarily saying it's trying to push it out, but does it become the thing that we had envisioned so long ago? Shit, I died.
I thought about that too, Gunnar, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hollywood replace Catboy. That it could happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I personally, because I have seen, like, now we're seeing the emergence of drag sex siren, right? It's not a category that's been had often, but it is starting to be had. It was actually had at the Take Me Back Ball. So it's one of those things that's very much like, in my mind, as someone who walks sex siren, I look at it and I think in my head, okay, you have Catboy, which is, and even Catboy is now like developing, right? Because initially Catboy was the smaller, more petite, more feminine, and now you're starting to see more masculine, but more feminine as well walking category. You're starting to see bigger guys walking it. So even Catboy is developing. So sex siren as GNC is going to be it's going to be very interesting, because again, we're focusing on the expression, right? So when I picture GNC sex siren, I picture someone coming out and their effect is masculine and feminine, right? But then it's like, well, there are other sex siren categories where we've seen male identified and feminine, like, we're thinking lace and we're thinking harnesses, and then we've seen, so it's very interesting how that's going to work. It might be something I play around with just to see. But yeah, I actually love and cannot wait to see what that looks like. And hopefully it goes smoothly. Hopefully.
You're raising your hand. You're next.
Who?
Hello.
I was thinking about walking femme queen body.
Hold on,
I think I could do it.
The person who was raising their hand go first. Sorry. Go ahead.
Is it me or no?
It's you.
Okay. Hi, can you guys see me or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Osha Lay. Nice to meet everybody. Yeah, Riante is my house mother.
Hey,
I'm
Osha.
Olabeja. Hello. Hi. Hey,
Hi.
Jeffrey. Hi, hold on. Yeah, I'm waiting. No, yeah, I'm gonna charge after you. Yep.
Okay.
I can't talk, hon. I'm in a meeting. I need to go. Hey, so what I was gonna say was, I was a little late to the meeting, and I heard you guys refer to the term fag out, and I'm like, what is that? Because like I'm very new to ballroom. It's been a little over a year.
Okay, let me explain to you, honey. Hello. I'm Icon Baron, Hall of Famer, Infinity Milan. And
Nice to
I'm
meet you.
iconic. Nice to meet you too, sweetie. I'm iconic for the category bizarre and fag out. Now, that category, what it called for was they would design a category, like say, you have to go to the beach. What you do now, me that I am, I'm a big old fucking butch queen. And I'm gay wherever I go, 100%, unbothered. And that's what they call like being fag out, where like I'll go into a neighborhood that's like where it could be dangerous, and I'll be like, and what? So they would say, like, bring it like you're going to the beach. So you would have to bring in like a bathing suit and act like a big old sissy faggot. And that's what you would do. Whatever the category merited, you had to bring the effect. So being in that category, fag out, we always had to be loud and boisterous and dress, flashy and kiki and whatnot.
Seems like a bit of theater, actually. I like it.
To be
So
your
I-
gayest,
Makes sense.
your gayest
That
self.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Thank you for that explanation.
Gay as
yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
I
exactly.
have a comment about the bishop in drag sex siren. It's not totally new. I had that category in one of my balls 20 years ago
Oh
in
wow.
Canada.
That's so crazy because like
And
when I know someone, so when the category like came back, right? And I think this is one of the things when you have, I think this is also the disconnect in ballroom, right? Is the history. Because like I know about fag out and I've seen the comments and the posts and stuff. You often hear it when they're talking about realness with a twist, right? And they're comparing them to the Butch King Vogue Femmes. That conversation comes out a lot. But I think like there's this disconnect where there's categories that have happened back in the day, right? And they may have been under different titles or they may have given different illusions. And then they disappear and they fade out because people aren't walking them. And then they get brought back, but there's no history behind why we're having this category. So they always appear new. So the reason why I always thought that this drag sex siren was new was because I have a friend who walks sex appeal in the Kiki scene. When we asked about having a drag sex siren category, the people looked at us like that was just unheard of, right? And then when they finally had it, it was like, oh, so y'all don't mind. It's a thing, but it wasn't something they had in a lot of balls. So a lot of us newer generation, we think this is a new category because when we asked about it, we were looked at like it's never been done before. I came into ballroom in 2015. So I'm still learning and educating myself on categories before me, individuals who are trailblazers of my own category and the like. So it actually is really astonishing to hear you say that that category was had so long ago, because now I know it's really not that new.
I want to say like 2004 through 2006. I'll look for the category. I have all my ball categories saved. So
I
I'll
think
look
it was
for
even before that too. By the way,
I'm
also
pretty sure. And Mother Allure Infinity was the one who walked that in Canada.
By the way, also you look very handsome.
Thank you. It's stress, honey.
You look good.
Thank you. I miss you.
I miss you too, honey. I'm
Oh,
eating blueberries and drinking vodka.
Work, bitch. So I remember when I had the category. I don't claim like author of or owner of the category. I just had it. Like I just thought it was a category. And I remember that it ran into some like discrepancies. And I was like, listen, some people like to sleep with men impersonating a woman. They're like, so if somebody if somebody fantasizes about it, then they can be perceived as sexy.
Yeah.
So the category exists in its own right.
That makes sense.
Hence the category femme queen.
And Mother Allure Infinity was a sexy
What?
bitch.
She was
drag.
divine. She was divine.
Yeah, she was Mother when I was Father Infinity. And I remember like just walking with her, and I would be so proud to have like such a pretty drag queen. I'm like, bitch, you're fucking pretty.
So we're getting to our last like 8
Oh,
9
yeah.
Of the couple of hours here. First of all, thank
What
you
it-
all so much for sticking with us for this long and tuning in and being a part of the conversation. This has been awesome. I wanted
And
to just like
entertaining.
pull up this, yeah, and I wanted to pull up this slide just as a reminders of our calls to action. So helping to educate the regional alliances, communicating within your houses about this, and reaching out to us for further questions that you might have. We can end with like a couple more questions or comments that folks have if they want.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
In writing the best dress category for my ball in Peru, that's going to be on March 30th, by the way. I asked them, what genders you guys include, whatever, and they go, because I wanted it to be best dressed mother and father, and they said, oh, okay, well, you could just put best dressed mother, best dressed father, so it's madre, padre, and then for the gender non-conforming is sadre. Sadre, the person who's a parent in ballroom, but they don't subscribe to any binary.
Oh.
I was like,
And
okay.
that's its own word, right? That's like a new word.
I don't know. I just learned it like literally 3 hours ago.
Like SADRE?
SADRE.
Yeah, I think that's just like a totally new word, which I love that.
I know.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now has a question or comment.
Yeah, just a quick question for Stella, actually, since you do love GNC Best Dressed. Actually, Rikka Juice too. What are the rules of accessories when it comes to that category?
There for GNC,
Best Dressed.
there are no rules with accessories.
You don't have to have a purse.
Well,
if they require it.
So the elements of best dress is what. So that's what people don't understand. The elements of best dress is the elements of best dress, whether it's gender non-conforming, female figure, or male figure. The more accessories, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a handbag with a little handbag, that's better than just having a little handbag. Yeah, the more accessories, the better. You should have a bag. You should have gloves. You should have eyewear. You should have headwear. You should have you should have jewelry. You should have, all those things, because it makes it more best dress.
Yeah.
From a style standpoint. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rikka.
The key is just like, it's the mix, right? So the way that you choose those items is going to depend on the rest of your look. So like for me, like in this example here with Janelle Monáe, like she didn't even have a handbag for her look. So I was just adding to it because it was best dressed. I was adding accessories because I knew that I had to make it over. And the bag itself, like I chose a handbag like that because the rest of my look had more of a feminine kind of slant. So all of the like edits that I made to Janelle Monáe's look, I made a little bit more mask, especially because I'm more of like a female bodied person. Like I knew that I had to kind of mix it a little more mask in that angle. But even my handbag, it's like kind of more femme, but it's like the style of it is masculine. It's like this metal, like angled kind of handbag. So the choices just need to be a mix. That's all I would say.
And no woman is ever sure at night.
O'Shea.
O'Shea, yeah.
Hi, yeah, it's O'Shea. It's fine, like a ocean with no N. But what I was gonna say was, I heard earlier, y'all were talking about a lot of the judges not knowing what's to be looked for, like for example in an outfit, like
Mhm.
whether it's face or best dressed or whatever, the elements of both masculine and feminine, that they're looking at the person, you know what I mean? Like somebody, I heard somebody say earlier, like, oh, it's the hairstyle or whatever, or the look, or, you know, when in terms of face, obviously looking for structure and stuff like that. But as far as the judges not knowing, like, is there any way that, like, before a ball, like before GNC comes out, like when there's a panel, like, you know, that the commentator or somebody could say, this is what you guys are looking for. You're looking for what y'all are looking for. You're looking for masculine and feminine in the outfit or whatever, so that like at that time it's fresh in their mind, or if they had never heard it before, it hadn't got to their house yet, that they could be like cognizant of that before we
Well,
walk up there. You
We
know
can
what
do
I
some,
mean?
we can
if I
do
may,
we do this.
O'Shea,
when I have categories that are very detailed or very specific or whatever, I create a binder for each judge, and it has the category written, and then it has a paragraph, me telling them in today's, you know, lingo, what I want. And then I have pictures as well. So I would love for you guys to come up with something that I can include in that binder.
wait, but now, if I may, also, O'Shea,
O'Shea.
O'Shea, I'm sorry, forgive me.
No worries.
Being a judge many, many, many times and many years is what we do. What a lot, which I have to say this about some of my compatriots, is that they don't judge the way that it should be. So now let's see if the house that's hosting the ball and the categories that are being stipulated. What I do, being a judge, is I read the category and I study the categories that every contestant is walking and what they're supposed to bring in the definition of the category. And if they don't, because I'm not really a chopping queen. I'm usually, mostly tens, and I let her go. But for instance, like if it's a category that has like cash, or where it's going to be a battle where you're going to get a bunch of the bitches out, that's where you have to really look at the category, study it, and bring it. And now, that being said, as a contestant, you also need to read your category and bring it to the judges as is stipulated, so that a judge that is cognizant could judge you fairly, because some of them, they don't, and they play favoritism, and it's disgusting, and I hate that. And
I wish everybody worked fairly like you, Baron.
Well, I would say
I sat on so many Judy panels, and it has made me incensed, and it's like, this isn't fair. That child, like, say it could be a child that was like really not known compared to somebody that is, but I'm like, that child is bringing it. Look at what that child is doing. Give it to that child. Be fair. And a lot of them don't. So even in this new GNC category, like I'm not fully known about it, but what the category would specify, I would look for what you're supposed to bring, what the category identifies. I would look at what you're supposed to bring, and I would judge you accordingly. And if you don't, I'm sorry, I'm going to chop you. But if not, you got my tens. And that's the way it is. And that's fair. That's the way it should be. And
I would just say, as a contender, because I've walked many balls as GNC, and and have been chopped with because of the judges not knowing. There's little things that we can do. Like, it would be amazing if the commentator read out the category and what it was supposed to look like, or if at every ball they had a binder defining what it was. But
Miss
9
India.
times out of 10, they don't do that. So I will say, for us, like, there's little things that we can try to do just to try to be very clear, knowing that there is a misunderstanding. Like, we can go, like, we have the form of what GNC is. We can go print that out, and before the category walks, like, hand it out to the judges. Or, if you do get unfairly chopped, have that take the extra step to have the conversation with those judges and to educate them on like, hey, this is what the category is. Cause that's how a lot of them find out by, like there's been times that I've been chopped and I went to the judge and they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Like if I'd have known, like, yeah, you definitely would have had tens. But just take those learning opportunities and really take advantage of them to
Right, but listen, my lady India, that's her name?
Yes.
Yes. See, I agree with you where I have been on judges' panels and I have tried telling judges, look at what this person is doing, and they're bringing the category correctly. Read. If I sit on a judges panel, I have to have the flyer where I'm judging that part so I can see the categories and read them and see that the person is representing the category. See where what happened to you is probably unfair. And I have on panels sometimes told judges, you are not doing this right. It's not fair. But no disrespect, I'm not going to get into a fight with another judge because that's what they're going to do. And a lot of the times they sometimes play favoritism, which is also very, very wrong.
That's why we're doing this education. It's going to take time and more conversations. Siren, you had your hand up for a while, so I'm going to actually give you the last word here. Stella, if you want to give some last words, and then we'll close out and post the recording for others to watch.
Sweet. So I will keep this simple. I don't fly planes for a living, so this plane will not be in the air for long. Basically, just to kind of answer that question, I know how hard it is to walk and have to deal with judges who oftentimes do not read the categories or may not understand. A lot of the times that does fall on the promoter. It is the promoter's job to make sure that the judges they select are aware of the categories they are presenting and are aware of how to judge those categories. However, we are all human, and when you have alcohol involved, you have your prohibitions and all the things, it does kind of make it harder for judges to judge fairly, right? What I can say is, as the individual walking, it is key, and I mean 100% key, to make sure that you are in a house that is willing to vet and stand by you in the event that something like that happens. Your house needs to know what you're walking, what the category is calling for, and be aware of how you are bringing it. So in the event that you are chopped unfairly, and you know without a shadow of a doubt that you should not have been chopped, your house leader can then go in for you and ask what is going on and get clarity. A lot of the times that's easier said than done, because a lot of times there are rules where house parents can't come on the stage and ask questions. Again, it is one of those unfortunate things that happens in ballroom across all categories. We're not going to say that GNC deserves like a special type of space where it's like, okay, no, for GNC, we gotta know, because to be honest, across the board, all the categories, people get chopped unfairly all the time. Sometimes we get to ask why, we get redemptions. Sometimes we don't, we ask later at another time. So it is one of those things that with grace, it's something that Ballroom is working on as a whole, but with this category, I understand that it is going to hit closer to home. What I can say, me personally, for any ball that I am at, if there is a GNC category and I do know the promoter and I do know the commentator, because a lot of times the commentator is in my house, which is Snooki, I can ask, hey, for GNC, for me as someone who is a part of that committee, can you reiterate what it is to be walking GNC and what the judges are looking for? I can only give, that is my promise as an individual who's on this committee, as an individual who does attend balls. If there's a category, I can do that. That is my part that I will be willing to do. But in terms of the larger scale, yes, have your house involved, talk to your leaders, make sure they're present, they know what you're doing, they know how you're bringing it, and they themselves understand what it is to walk GNC category, so that you are not out there on your own fighting for that battle.
Stella?
So I want to piggyback with Siren, because there was a point where every ball I was going to, I was getting chopped. And my house, they were batting for me. But what I told them is that when I do get to the stage, I have to let the commentator know that I am GNC. And because sometimes they may call the category and the girls are on the panel talking, they doing this, they having their drinks. They don't realize it's a GNC category. So you have, before you even touch that floor, you let the commentator know, hey, let the panel know this is GNC and I'm walking as GNC. The very first time I did that, I actually got 10s. So it's up to us as well to make sure that before we hit that floor, if somebody's escorting us, they let the commentator know. They let the, it's our job to also bat for us and not always have everyone else bat for us. So making sure that commentator know, hey, this is GNC category. Judges, please be aware this is GNC category. So that they can change their mindset of now not judging a binary category, but judging a non-binary category. And my last things would be this. There are so many things that we want to do, but there's not a lot of us fighting for GNC. So that's why we have the lives and we have the documents to spread out and to send out to everyone, because we can't be to every ball. And we as much as we want to, as much as we want to advocate, we give the information and to everyone else in hopes that they would be advocates along with us to make sure that the judges are doing their jobs, to make sure that the promoters are holding those judges accountable. Because if there is something that happened to you, I'm in the Gulf Coast. I don't know every ball in the West Coast. So if something happens to a GNC person on the West Coast, then it's up to you as a person on the West Coast to say, hey, this is what happened to me. And with not only with your leaders, but with us as well, because then we can also vouch for you and help you in that initiative to get the proper judging and to get the fairness of judgment and the fairness of being represented just like everyone else. That's all.
Absolutely. I second everything Siren and Stella said. And I also just wanted to point everybody to the link in the chat before we close out. That bit.ly link, GNC Docs, that has this PowerPoint presentation and the 2 documents that we've put out previously as the GNC Advocacy Committee. So take a look at those. Those are there for you. You can download them. You can share them with folks. There is actually a question on one of those documents. That's how should commentators present GNC categories? Literally answered it right on there for you. So take a look at those. I will also include that link in the description for this video. So all of that will be available to everybody. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks, Stella, Siren, for your time and your commitment and your education of everybody. And thanks everybody for your great questions and holding space and just being good supporters of GNC. This is a community effort. So we hope to see you out there and hear you out there supporting this and helping GNC become a hyped up, supported label across different categories and ballroom. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was amazing. I really, really enjoyed this. This was very informative. Thank you, you guys. Your service is so appreciated.
And you guys screenshot that page. If you want to contact us anytime, feel free to contact us. We'll be willing to go over things, clarify things, and help if you need help explaining, to your house or to your house members. We can even go the extra measure of, getting on a Zoom call or whatever. In that case. But good night. You guys enjoy your Sunday.
Good night,
Good
y'all.
night.